Hello and welcome to the 2025 Global Peace Film Festival, Filmmaker Conversations. I'm Gabby Kennedy, host of the Actors Talk with Gabby Kennedy. Co-hosting these conversations with me is Nina Strike, founder and festival director of the Global Peace Film Festival. This year's festival runs from September 16th through the 21st in Winter Park in Orlando, Florida. And the festival's Free for All Shorts program runs from September 22nd to the 28th. For more information about our films, go to peacefilmfest.org. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Philip Dolin, director of Art Spiegelman, Disaster is My Muse. Philip, how are you today?
Very well. It's great to be here. Great to be with you guys. I'm sorry my partner, directing partner Molly Bernstein, could not be here today, so I'm going to be doing this one on my own, if that's okay.
Well, we'll send much love to Molly. Molly, we wish you were here.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
wish you were here. Well, we'll jump right into this conversation. And Philip, will you please tell us about the film?
Yes, well, it's called Art Spiegelman, Disaster is My Muse. It's about the graphic novelist Art Spiegelman, who's very well known for winning the first Pulitzer Prize awarded to a graphic novel back in 1991. And he did a graphic novel called Mouse about his parents' experience in the Holocaust. And it was a unique work in that it was a way of kind of educating the world about the Holocaust, but it also used the graphic novel form, the comic book form, to tell this story. So it was very groundbreaking. And it's since had the effect of opening up the doors to the graphic novel industry. So now there are bookshelves and shelves of graphic novels, and they're taught in universities and all over. And when Art did it, he was kind of alone. He thought, I'm doing this, and no one's going to know this while I'm alive, but I'm doing it anyway. And so that's kind of what our story is about. It's about this artist and his life's work to create this work, and then kind of what happened to him afterwards.
Okay.
Well, the film is really very multi-layered. So can you talk about your approach to the subject, how you came up with that approach? And
Yeah.
because it's so very personal.
Yeah,
And
it's
so, and at the same time, there's something for everyone in it.
well, yeah. So that's thank you for pointing that out. It is multi-layered. There's so many different kinds of threads through the story. There's the story of comic books and kind of the history of comic books in America. There's the story of Art Spiegelman himself growing up and learning about comic books. There's his relationship with his amazing wife, Francoise Mouly, who plays a key role in his life. She's now the art editor of the New Yorker magazine. So every week, right this at this very second, she is picking next week's New Yorker cover. And so she's brought a lot of the comic ethos into that work. And it's the story of the father and the family, Vladek and Anja, and their experiences in the Holocaust. So it's all those different threads. And how did we do it? Well, it took a lot of work, a lot of thinking, and a lot of different kind of ways of approaching this story. I used to say that we were working with a loom, a huge, enormous loom, with thousands of threads of all the different things that make up Art's life or any person's life, really. And you kind of have to choose which threads you're going to use. If you use too many, it's kind of muddy and it's a mess. And so you have to figure out what you're emphasizing and how to weave it together. I don't know if that answers the question, but that was kind of the major challenge of this film, was kind of weaving together all these different stories. And actually, one other thing is we had to kind of impart information to the viewer. So we had to make sure the viewer understood certain things about comics and comic language and how that affected art. We had to make sure the viewers understood certain things about Art's life, the chronology of his life. And so that's kind of the puzzle of this film.
And also for people who are into comics, there are many incredible graphic artists featured and interviewed in the film.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
art.
yeah,
Oh, go on.
and they're
Uh,
related with art and their inspiration for their own work, as well as what art's work did for them.
Yes, I mean, Art in his life, he kind of goes through and touches upon these different elements of kind of American life. So he's an immigrant himself. His parents were Holocaust survivors. He discovers comic books as a way of understanding American culture. So from the first moment he tells a funny story of being about 2 years old and seeing a Batman comic book at a friend's house. And he was so fascinated with his image of Batman and wanted to know if he was good or bad, which is a lot of people want to know that about Batman. And so he said at that moment in his little 2-year-old brain, he said, I must learn how to read now so I can understand this. And so that became his window into America. And then, as you pointed out, he then moved to San Francisco and became part of the underground comics movement, which was really a lot of people like Art who grew up loving comics, but they wanted to push the boundaries a little more away from just stories for kids and into more adult stories or subversive stories. You know, there were a lot of San Francisco hippies kind of pushing the form and doing things that were very offensive and purposely so. And that's kind of where Mouse came from as well. It came from this idea of let's take the comic book form, but push it beyond what it is.
So how did you get into doing this film, and what did you learn that you didn't expect to find out from making this film?
Well, we were not fans of comics at all.
Wow.
You know, we were not comics fans. We didn't choose this. And this is true of a lot of the films that we do. They come about in their own unusual way, and we engage with the subject in a deep way. And so we did a film. Molly Bernstein is not here, directed a film. I was a producer on the magician Ricky Jay, who's a very well-known magician. And so that was similar. That was getting into magic and all the different ins and outs of magic, the art form of magic in the United States. And Art Spiegelman was a friend of Ricky Jay's. Ricky Jay passed away, sadly, a few years ago. And Art wanted some filmmakers to film a stage show he was doing. Art is very much a historian of comics and graphic novels. And he had a stage show where he showed slides and spoke about the works that influenced him, and he wanted that filmed. And so we met him, we filmed it, we got along. He loved the Ricky Jay film. And we just kind of talked about making a film, and did it very slowly. We filmed him maybe every 3 or 4 months when something came up in his life, winning an award or giving a speech, so forth, and just kind of started that way. And part of that for us was research, because when Art speaks, as you'll see in the movie, he speaks the language of comics. And so many references to art history, comic history. We had to learn all that. So we spent years, I would say, reading comics, reading graphic novels, really understanding all the references that Art was making and understanding all the people that he'd worked with. You know, so that was kind of the challenge of the film and also the fun part. So we didn't know comics, but we do now. You know, that's for sure.
That's incredible, because it is such a wide overview of someone's life, and it's really a remarkable film for that. But also, it's so interesting, the approach to the Holocaust. And one of the things about the Global Peace Film Festival is we want people to be encouraged to do things about what they've seen, and whether it's just learn more or do something active. Is there anything that you can that you are looking for from the audiences of this film?
Well, let me just say one thing before, if that's okay, before I answer that. And that is, when we made this film, one of the things we said to ourselves is we had 3 majors. We were majoring in the history of comics, so we really had to get that down. And we were majoring in the history of art's life, which is very multi-layered and multifaceted. And we were also majoring in the history of the Holocaust and how it had been portrayed in film and literature. So we had those 3 majors. But to your point of what we want, I mean, the film is very much about someone following their creativity, of being uncompromising. Art is also very generous, you'll see, with other artists, and they started a magazine so they could promote the work of their friends. And so there's a lot of that. There's also in the film a whole section on censorship, the censorship of art's work, which happened in 2022, and also his defense of the other artists whose work was censored. So he's very much of a free speech advocate. I think that probably fits in with the theme of the festival. In terms of the audience reaction, it's so funny, not so funny, but every time I see the film now, it kind of has a slightly different resonance because of the period we're living in and what's going on now in the world right now, right this moment, both with Trump and immigrants and censorship and all the things that are happening. And so art kind of forewarns some of those things in our film. Anyway, I think we, at this point, the film is in the world, and we want people to see it and to react to it according to what they're experiencing, and to have conversations based on what's going on in the world and in their lives. So we don't have expectations in that way. That's one of the beauties of a film. I think it kind of moves into the world and changes with the times.
And allows everyone to take away what they need to take away from it as well.
Yeah, we have a friend who runs art galleries in New York City, and he used to say, a work of art is like the campfire that you sit around at night and have discussions about whatever you want, that's inspired by this fire. And so that's kind of our view of the film, or of any film that we would make at this point.
All right. Philip, thank you so much for giving us a little insight. Now, I always like to ask, as we explore these films a little more, can you share a little behind the scenes moment with us while making Art Spiegelman, Disaster is My Muse?
Behind the scenes moment, you mean something that people don't know about, or something that
Yeah.
was well, there are so many examples, and it's kind of hard to pick one. But I will say, I guess one thing I often say about the film, which is interesting to us, is that during COVID, everything kind of shut down. We weren't filming, we weren't raising money. But one thing we started to do is record Art's Zoom appearances. He started to do more of these intimate Zoom appearances, much like we're doing now. I mean, this technology, people have to remember, came about through the COVID pandemic. And so I was doing some projects using this kind of software, interviewing people via Zoom. And so we started recording all of Art's Zoom appearances, where he was talking about Mouse, he was talking about censorship, he was talking about what was going on. And those recordings had a certain intimate quality to them. I kind of would compare it to when you're talking on the phone with someone. There's a certain intimacy that maybe you don't have when you're face to face with them. And so we captured those, and those play an important part of the film. Watching Art react to what's going on, having him give these kind of heartfelt views of what our society was going through. And so that was kind of a surprise for us, because here we thought the film's kind of on hiatus, and yet we were capturing the real events as they were happening that were impacting on Art's life.
Nice, very nice.
Hope that
Philip,
answers that.
yes, it does. It does. I always like to take a little peek behind the scenes. Philip, what's next for you?
Well, we're spending a lot of time promoting this film, which is such a pleasure. But I'm also I'm editing a film that I've been working on for many years, another film. It's more of a personal documentary. It involves a friend of mine who fell in love with a movie star as a young child and was later able to meet that person. And so it's kind of like a real life Hollywood dream come true story. And so it's a little more of a positive film, but that's something I've filmed over many years. like the Art Spiegelman film, and I'm now editing that.
Nice. Very nice. And how can our audience support you? How can we?
Well,
Yeah.
yes. Well, the film, the film is on Amazon. It's also on Canopy, Kanapy, which
Okay.
is an educational streaming site. You can find information on the film at artspiegelmandoc.com. And, I'm going to give my email, because if people have any specific questions, they can also just reach out to me, and I'd love to
Awesome.
answer your questions. So my email is lowercase pjd@bway.net. So that's Paul Jack Dog at bway.net, bway.net,
All
short for
right.
Broadway.
All right. And before we go, Nina, any closing remarks?
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Philip. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and we look forward to the screening at the festival and to your answering questions via Zoom after we screen the film.
Yes, I'll be with you afterwards on Zoom. So I look forward to speaking with the audience.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. And again, the 2025 Global Peace Film Festival runs September 16th through the 20th in Orlando and Winter Park, Florida. Philip, you've been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again so much for joining us. And thank you, Nina, for also all of the wonderful questions that you had for Philip. I personally cannot wait to see this film. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You both have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right.